the Callaloo thing, girl.
Yes, the
Staying
Cannapeneur
healthy.
Yes. You know what's up.
I know. I'm with you. Sorrel, keep the
Yeah,
body
man.
good.
Keep the
They call,
body good.
what they call me. They call me healthy man.
They call
That's
you
true
the
story.
Alcalaman.
The healthy man. That's true story, by
Right.
the way. Go ahead.
Okay.
We told you we have fun on this show. So and you know, Ro is quite familiar, as he's just shown you with his Caribbean folks. So
But
Mhm.
to get off the humor and silliness, but what you're saying, what you said thus far, is so important. On the last show, I mentioned a principle I like to refer to as Back to the Future.
Mhm.
And not to get too deep into it, but when that film came out, I always wondered that was sounded kind of oxymoronic. But as I got older, I realized on a deeper level what that really means. And interestingly enough, a lot of these writers for these films sneak messages in, but if you take it as a film, you'll miss it. But a lot of times you rewatch a movie, you'll get a lot of messages someone's trying to sneak you. But, everything you mentioned, from the sorrel to the nutmeg and natural ways to deal with inflammation, the diabetes, the monk fruit and everything, we need to go back to the traditions of the past and our traditional ways of dealing with things so we can have a viable future. I mean, these little hard tablets ain't working for nobody. So it's really exciting to hear you talk about what you're doing and your practical application of your culture in helping yourself and the customers and people you're dealing with. I support that wholeheartedly,
Well, thank you. And it's funny when you say Back to the Future, the phrase that always comes to mind for me is Sankofa. Are you familiar with the phrase Sankofa?
I am.
Right. So there you go. That's the same thing.
So that was Back to the Future before Back to the Future.
Exactly. That was the original Back to the Future. Sankofa.
We ain't gonna get into that.
Well, we ain't gonna get into all that, but look, you're familiar, so you know.
I am, and it's very important. There's no future without a past. And a lot of times in our modern day society, we get so caught up with surging forward. Moving forward with new technology, just new things. Look, we're not reinventing the wheel; we're actually destroying it. So
exactly,
the future is actually the past with greater care given to it. There's me and Loris were talking on a previous episode about the many applications of hemp, and there's no reason you can't take that into the 21st, 22nd, 23rd century and have technology and a lifestyle that makes life easier and more convenient and safer without the destruction of the environment,
I agree.
Oh, yeah. With that, with regards to hemp, we should have been using hemp for plastics and bricks and all the cement, all the things you can make with it. I mean, it's just crazy. But it just shows that people have gone out of their way to suppress hemp and suppress cannabis, and because they know that A, it actually works, B, it's good for you, and we could avoid all these problems that are being caused because of greedy people and money.
Well, from what I understand, in the beginning of America, I thought hemp was one of the products that they developed.
It was.
Okay.
It was America, and even in South Africa, when the Dutch went down there and colonized South Africa, all they were making their clothes out of hemp, and they were getting their hemp locally, and they used that to make ropes and all kinds of things. And of course, we know what they used the ropes for, but they were but it was good enough. It was good enough to do the job. So they were like, okay, this hemp is useful, But then again, when the British came in, because it wasn't just the Dutch down there, it was the British, and eventually they were like, hey, this is going to cut into our petrodollars. We need to suppress this plant, and it was a global effort to suppress this plant, because Africa has 54 countries, and most of them, medical and recreational, are fully illegal. And it's crazy when you think of all the money they're missing, all the health benefits they're missing, and all the things they could have been using hemp for. Like I said, for construction, for making clothes, rope, all this stuff. So it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I feel like they basically the colonizers. I feel like they basically kind of handicap the islands because again, this stuff grows obviously like a weed, in the islands, and that could be a very big export. But because people have been brainwashed over, against the benefits, they are literally like crippling themselves in the economy. So
it's funny you mentioned that, 'cause I saw a documentary on the weekend about Jamaica and hemp or cannabis in Jamaica, and how in the 80s the U.S. actually sent warships to block Jamaica from exporting cannabis, and then they put people on the ground to basically pay and coerce the officials to say, hey, this is the devil's lettuce, y'all can't sell this thing. And it was all a ploy to, again, suppress them from getting the wealth that they would have got. Because they actually wanted to legalize it back then. Because, like you said, it grows like a weed. Yeah, they should have. But just think of how that would have transformed Jamaica economically.
Exactly. I know. That's what I'm saying. And it's unfortunate that they, were influenced. Because not only did they bribe the officials, of course, that concept kind of trickled down to the people, I guess, that ran the government or whatever. So, I mean, because, I talk to, I have, Jamaican friends that are Christians and don't believe in weed and all this other stuff. But I'm like, really, if it's a business, it's a legitimate business. So it has nothing to do with morality. And since God if you believe in God and you believe in nature, like he put it there. So I don't understand why.
It's medicine.
Exactly.
It helps people. I'm putting my hand up right now. It helped me. That's how I got it. That's how I got into it.
Yeah, but you're bad for business. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, look at everything you're discussing. It really comes down to who is in control of a crop or resource at the time to exploit it and make the most profit. Hemp was a big deal until the power structure changed and somebody didn't have access to it and wanted to bring in a new cash crop to make new money. I mean, why is soy such a big deal now when it wasn't traditionally in this country? Because someone came into power and had access to Chinese soybeans and brought that over here and made that a cash crop, and now it's in everything. I mean, I think to my childhood when they told us about the meat and potatoes diet, if you didn't eat meat and potatoes, you couldn't be a real man. And in breaking out of the matrix, I come to realize because all they had to sell me was meat and potatoes, and they weren't going to reference a mango or camu. So a lot of times, and that's why I really love what you're doing, because we got to break out of this myopic view of reality and out of this box we've been given to live in. The stuff that's being recommended to us daily, as our staple foods and our staple understanding of health and a lifestyle, it's what they have to sell us at the moment. It's not even American. It's what they can profit from at that moment, and what they need you to participate in. And once again, the steak and potatoes diet, because nothing with a full nutritional profile grows in any continent of the United States, because they exploited the soil back in the 1890s and early 1900s, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture admitted that in the early 1920s, that the nutritional profile of our soil was completely blown. So anything you grow here is not going to have a full micronutritional profile. And that doesn't stop them from making recommendations, So I'm just making that point because a lot of people are going to hear this and hear some of the things you're discussing and might not be completely comfortable or have any frame of reference on that. But please give these things a chance, because they're way more viable to bringing a healthy, bringing health to your body than what you've been told to do, which is tied to someone's P&L.
Yep.
So Wani, actually, I had a question for you. Maybe if you'd like to give me your opinion on this. When you talk about what they recommend to us, so even when it comes to cannabis, if you notice lately, But it's a lot of stuff that's been taken over, the whole concentrates, right? Concentrates and vapes and all of that. But now all of this controversy has come out where before it was like additives in the vapes, and now it's the whole vape lung disease thing or whatever. Whereas for me, people used to laugh at me because I'm like, I don't really get into the whole oils thing. I don't get in unless I know that it's directly, like if I knew the farmer, right? And I know the source of what's in the oil. But I've always done the dry herb, like literally flour, right? But people are like, oh, that's old school. You need to do the vape. So now that the conversation is like shifted to the whole it being contaminated, like, what do you think about that? Because I feel like the oil has been pushed for the last couple of years. Like people are moving away from flour and getting more into concentrate. So do you feel like that's something that's just being pushed because of availability?
I think it is. Go ahead, Ro.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead.
The fact that you say you could vape a leaf, I don't think people even know that, right? We have a tendency. This society overcomplicates everything. But any con artist, any legit con artist, listen to that. Any real con artist is going to make a situation so complicated, and then put you in a position above them to where you actually think the way through this complicated situation is to kind of exploit the con artist, and he flips the game on you, makes his money. All I'm saying is, if you look at a lot of situations in this country, things have been made overly complicated. And you just pointed that out with you being able to use a flower and a vaporizer and get the desired result. And they're pushing these oils, right? And then all of a sudden, vaping comes out of nowhere and it's completely okay. And now all of a sudden, within the past 2 weeks, everyone's dying from this this lung disease. Well, last episode we discussed was it? I don't know if it was last episode. One of them.
It was last episode. Yeah.
The warfare of business. And when I look at what's happening with this whole get rid of the flavored vapes and oil thing and everything like that, I see a corporate takeover and warfare. There's not enough people dying from these flavored vaporizers to get the president and USDA to start saying, we got to ban this tomorrow. What it is too many common folks making too much money with these little vape shops that have popped up all over the place. And the big corporations, and I'm not going to name none, has said, wait a minute, we're about to lose this thing. Let's rein it back in and demonize what they're doing. Shut it down for now until we can come up with something that's competitive, and then make a governmental certification that makes ours okay to fill that gap again. So no one is dying, and no one is, it ain't no worse than a cigarette or anything else. Not that that's good, but it's not this end of the world situation. And they always invoke children in it to get your heartstrings tugged, like, the kids can get easy access to yada, yada, yada. No, what it really is some corporations like, wait a minute, I'm left out and I can't get a piece of this because the culture around this thing, and we speak a lot about culture on this show, and integrity. The culture of your local vape shop is bigger than my corporation, and I'll never get these people back unless I get someone to pull a big string and shut this down until I can redefine the paradigm and then put a government stamp on my flavored vape that's going to be safe for you. So that's my appraisal of the situation.
Okay. I agree. I definitely agree.
Nothing on the news is real. I think in 1984, in a Senate hearing, the CIA admitted. We're gonna be in trouble, Lois. The CIA admitted that they have
put crack in the neighborhoods.
No. Well, yeah, Gary Webb, Dark Alliance, read that book. But no, they said they admitted that they had assets and officers, at least one, in every major news company in the country. They said that in like early 80s. What do you think they have now? So nothing on the news is real. Other than your local traffic report and your weather. So